Go. All right, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Daniel Moss. I'm the CD, the community director over at Rollins Hall. I use the he series of pronouns. With me today is my, equally esteemed partner, Jessica.
So hello, I am Jessica. I am the assistant community director over here for Kurt A, and I also use the she series and pronouns.
So before we get started today, I just wanted to kind of like take a breath and kind of acknowledge that this is a very interesting time we're living in and how we're developing this this presentation here. Both Jessica and I are co-presenting this presentation, yet neither one of us is in the same room at the same time. None of you are in the same room as well. So it's an interesting thing to me. It kind of harkens back to my undergrad years in anthropology and some other stuff where we discuss things like this. But yeah, so like I said, today we're going to be doing the RA job responsibilities and expectations of incoming, new RAs. So let's get started. So what housing wants you to learn from this training? We expect that you will, understand the job responsibilities. If there's any point in the presentation, every few slides we'll be letting y'all have a pause for questions and that sort of thing, because we want you to understand this. And so part of what Jessica and I, our responsibility and expectation of ourselves is that we will be able to get you to understand these things. You'll also understand the requirements to maintain your position. Now that you've got it, that's great, but there's still some stuff you need to do in order to keep it. You'll also understand the RLA Code of Ethics. That's something that, it's an agreement that you'll sign that you abide by the Code of Ethics that we've established. You'll also understand the requirements for the job safety checklist. And that's something that we'll go over in the presentation, but it's also something that you'll go in slightly more detail via your hall later on, just because, I can't point out where your extinguisher is in a building I'm, not in. Also, just keep in mind that some of what we'll be covering today will be mentioned a few times throughout, and that's an intentional thing. It's to show that, this job is not just a straight line, that it's circular, it's, reflective, and it's a good thing when you notice these connections, because I mean that means that you're seeing all the different aspects and how they complement each other as we go through the presentation. And then, like I said before, every few slides we will pause for if there's any questions. We want this presentation to be as interactive as we can, so there's also going to be a few quizzes spread out, and we're going to want y'all to try to answer some of these these quizzes for us, to make sure that you're getting the information we're trying to give out.
All right, I will also try and be monitoring the chat as best as possible in case there are some questions. So bear with me. I'm also using my personal device because we don't quite have cameras for the graduate assistants yet, which is okay. So I will just do my best during that. Can everyone just make sure that the camera is on, so that way we can make sure that if y'all have questions, we can see y'all coming to the camera or anything like that. That would be greatly appreciated. Also, before we get started, the stuff that Daniel just talked about for the Code of Ethics and actually like the job description are things that are printed in y'all's little handbook guide that's in y'all's binders. So if y'all want to follow along or highlight or take notes, there's plenty of room and time for that. Alrighty. So just some things to kind of think about is to just take a moment or two and think about what the expectations and responsibilities that you feel come from being an RA. And then also just kind of reflect on some things that you saw your RA do, or maybe what they didn't do. And you can ask your CD what they expect, what your residents potentially may expect, and what your other RAs expect from you as well. So hopefully today at some point as a team, whenever you get with the returning staff as well, y'all can kind of set those expectations and understand your responsibilities a little bit further and things of that nature. And then also kind of just think about the areas that you may potentially need to do something better or reflect on things of that nature and everything like that. So always just remember that you have your CD and your peers. You can always reach out to them if you need help or assistance or have questions and everything like that. And so you can go to the next slide, Daniel.
There we go. So the RA job description. The RA position is a student employee position within the Department of Housing and Residence Life, which works as a member of a residence hall staff. RAs are facilitators for community development. You're here to provide and help enhance, the growth of your residents and of your community within your wing, as well as your building community as a whole. And we do this by various programming, chats that you have with your residents. We also provide an orderly, safe environment to live in. So not only do we want our residents happy, but we also want them safe. And this is going to be kind of a thematic thing you'll notice through all your training, but COVID-19 has also kind of changed this. It was never, this part of the job was never not a priority, but with COVID-19, that can alter some of the things that we will do and how we do them. And so, it's going to be new territory, which can also in its own way be exciting because y'all will be doing things that no other RAs have had to do before. And I think we have hired the people this year and have our returners that are the people that can rise to this challenge. And then just throughout the rest of our LT, like you'll see these changes. We've already mentioned some of them before with like the COVID-19 update that Tomas did earlier today. And we're trying to make sure that our residents are safe, but also that y'all are safe as well. Your safety is certainly a top priority. RAs, you also create opportunities for social, educational, intellectual, and cultural development for residents. You help your residents grow and develop. Just as kind of, your CDs and ACDs are interested in your development, and we also are interested in the residents' development as well, but your task is to help them not just have fun and be safe, but become the people we would hope that they want to be, and help them develop the skills, to carry them through their, not only just their college career, but also, what will lead them into the next life. RA job description continued. So the RAs are also intelligent, flexible, creative, responsible leaders, and that you can relate to residents. You're in positions as student leaders, and your residents do look up to you. And you'll also be there for them on the same floor. So, while I'm certainly vested in our development for our residents, you're there with them on the same floor. You're going to get a much better chance of getting to know them than anyone else in housing, or their professors or anything like that. And so they see you as that, example, that roadmap for success in college. You're also in this position because you have a certain set of skills that I think will help guide and lead these residents, as I said before, into, becoming role models and perhaps leaders themselves. You also fill the roles of resources, mentors, educators, role models, figures of authority, just everything else. You really are, in a lot of ways, kind of like the go-to person for our residents, because you're going to be that easy first person for them to go to. So, you're a resource because you can help them. You're mentors because you can guide them. And you wear a lot of hats in this job. I would also say that you as a resource is probably the best descriptive, simply because everything else falls under that resource umbrella. I'll also say that in addition, RAs should be committed to their own personal growth and education. While we hired you obviously to help with residents and help them grow, we like to think that this, and we strive to make this position something for you to be able to help cultivate your skills as well, and help your growth and your education. It's not just a job, but it's an opportunity for y'all. And this job can help prepare you for these next, sorry, technical difficulties. Yeah, so it can help you prepare for those next steps as you begin to leave college and go into your careers as well. So I'm going to take a pause here just to see if there's any questions so far. Questions, comments? Jessica, do you see anything in the chat? I don't remember seeing anything pop up, but.
Nope, the chat is good.
Okay. Well, if you think of your questions, you can always come back to this same material, or you can discuss it later with your CD, later today.
All right, so RA workload. So these are just some of the things that Daniel and I kind of came up with together to figure out really kind of the things that the RAs are mostly responsible for. And you can also see, as the screen says, other tasks as assigned. So that's always a fun time as well. So performing on-call duties and holiday on-calls. So holiday on-calls are essentially who's working during spring break and who's working during Thanksgiving break, but that's something that you can think about and figure out as a staff at a later time, since obviously this is day one. We're not doing on-call stuff yet. And then reporting maintenance problems. There are proper channels for that, as you will learn throughout the week on how to report maintenance things. But it's maintenance like plumbing issues, electricity things, and things of that nature. Enforcing policy and regulations would be like enforcing quiet hours and the visitation with COVID and things like that. So putting on programs is obviously going to look quite different this year. So just putting on your programs and doing bulletin boards and take twos and stuff like that. But it's mostly going to be somewhat virtual, hybrid for the most part, as Tomas mentioned earlier in the morning session. And then taking an active part in hall functions is just being around and being seen by your staff. We want to make sure that you have all of the assistance that you need in order for you to be as successful as possible in your position. It's hard to do that when we never see you. Assisting individual students would essentially just be talking with the residents and figuring out what's going on, potentially doing a mediation between roommate conflict and things like that. And then obviously attending staff development trainings, like you're in RLT right now, and then obviously staff meetings that will occur as well. And then there's first flight week, which you'll hear more about this as the week goes on and everything like that, but you'll definitely be having discussions with residents for sure. So that's essentially kind of the workload and obviously the other tasks as assigned.
So evaluation of RAs, we can't tell you really how, what you're excelling at, or, what we would like to work on with you to, help you, better serve, your community if we don't evaluate you. And this is not just the evaluations that we do at each semester. Every day, your job performance is being evaluated in some way. These evaluations are done by your CD, but they can also be done by the assistant director of AD, if they have any feedback that they've heard that they give to us, or the assistant director for business operations. If there's something that they've noticed, they'll let your direct supervisor know so that we can better address it. The point of the evaluations themselves are kind of a culmination of things you should already be aware of through talks and one-on-one, your weekly one-on-one with your CD or ACD. So really, when you do those end of the semester evaluations, they shouldn't be a surprise. And just what you did. They're just a summarization of what you did well in, and areas that you need to improve on, and what plans we can do that can be created to help you succeed in those improvements. Things happen, people mess up, and part of our jobs that we do is to help guide you through that and see those mistakes and help you learn from them, and move on to do something else. So, on your evaluation, if you get a 1 or a 2, that's not us telling you you're a bad person. That's just something that we want to help you change and help and challenge you to improve on that. So the unsatisfactory job performance will be addressed by the following ways. You get a verbal warning, which is when your CD clearly states that, hey, I've noticed this. They'll let you know that it is in fact a verbal warning, with a follow-up email, just for record purposes. So after the verbal warning, if you get another email, that's not the written warning that's on the screen. That's just still part of the verbal warning. And then after that, if the same actions and the same behavior continue, you'll get a written warning, which is a much more formalized document that states, hey, this happened again. And then after that, if things continue to escalate, you could face probation or even termination. That is, of course, the general flow of the discipline, but certain incidents can lead right to probation or termination. Like you lose a master key, for instance, or just something really big. And again, I stress that these are not forms of punishment. It's a way to help you be accountable, to help you grow. So I just want you to kind of reflect on that. I've learned, and this is not to say that success by means is bad and that you can't learn stuff from it. Yeah, that's very nice. You can certainly learn from that, but you can also learn just as much, if not maybe a little more, from your mistakes. And then also the RA position is appointed by housing for the period of 1 semester. So yes, so we hired you for both the fall and the spring, but that is contingent on job performance. If certain conditions are not met, it is possible you may not have your position offered back next semester. And we'll be, this is also not meant to scare you. Again, this kind of goes back to, it's more about us trying to show you accountability in this kind of environment, so that when you do go to, the next step, that, you realize what evaluation really means versus, what, it might sound like. And we also don't want to just wait till the end of the semester and say, oops, you were bad, bye. We talked to you about these things throughout the semester, so that we can help you before things lead to you being on probation or worse. Jessica, you're muted.
Oh no. Okay, well, that's fun. I will just start over with what I was saying. So essentially, before, in the wonderful times before COVID, the GPA expectation for an RA was to be a 2.75, but very much like last semester, we're not necessarily focusing on this requirement. However, since this is something that could change for the spring of 21, if COVID get things not necessarily back to normal, but more on normal-ish terms, then we just want to make sure that if you are struggling, that we can help you in the best ways that we can. And maybe this position is a bit much, so let's try and figure out some time management or things to help you succeed. Again, it's not necessarily a punishment if your GPA is falling. It's just we want to help you succeed in the best way that you possibly can. Just something else to consider is that if your GPA drops below a 2.25, you probably will not be coming back for this position, just because it's more important for you to have better grades than to be in this position. And again, we want the best for you as for your grades and all of that as well. And so we would rather know you are not doing so hot in the middle of the semester rather than finding out towards the end. So if you are struggling because this semester may be harder because it's virtual and it's just everything is a little bit much and you're overwhelmed, like communicate that with your ACD and your CD team, so that way they are in the loop and they can help you understand, okay, well, let's have a meeting and kind of figure some stuff out. And that way, again, you can be successful. not only in this position, but also in your classes. So then for classes, so you can take no less than 12 hours. So you have to be a full-time student, but no more than 16, because that way you can understand the expectations again of what this position holds for you. And also you just got to be a full-time student as well. And then RA class. So as newly hired RAs for the department, you will be in an RA course for the first semester of being employed. And I think we'll get more into that potentially later in this presentation or at another point during the RLT.
So expectations of communication, I think from the little pictures here, you can see kind of what this is focused on. We want to make sure that you are keeping accurate records of resident discipline incidences. So anytime you have a resident, with some sort of violation, whether it's, something to do with, roommate conflict or some Title IX things or, visitation or just, we want you keeping those accurate records, especially, and you're going to be getting a lot of training on IRs, and not just through RLT this time, but just in general. So you'll hear enough about IRs and things. We also want you to make sure that you are, withholding sensitive information from all those who don't have a professional need to know. That's kind of why I have that little picture there with the loose lips sink ships. Gossip can be, among RAs, is something we don't want to do. But also we want to make sure that residents aren't gossiping as well. If we have something that, is a small issue, word travels fast around the halls, and pretty soon it's been built up into this much bigger thing than what it originally was, because, rumor mills are what they are. And so we need to do what we can to keep these situations down. And just think about how you would feel being in a situation and having discussed, having that situation and having your situation discussed amongst the general populace. You also want to make sure that you're attending and participating in all staff meetings. These are important. It's how information is distributed and further training is done. This is the same for the all staffs as well, that monthly meeting where all the staffs get together. And not just like the staff meetings, but your weekly one-on-ones are also just super important, y'all, because it helps you talk to this is when you and your CD or ACD are going to have those talks that can help you grow, not just in this position, but in the other ways that you want to develop yourself. We also want to make sure that you're disseminating an administrative notices and announcements in, a timely manner. So yeah, whenever, you are told to give out information, give out information. Maintaining regular contact with community director and other staff members in order to ensure adequate communication. Communication is a big deal in housing, y'all. So I want to make sure that you're checking your Outlook email at least once a day, possibly more unless your CD, ACD lets you know, hey, I just sent you out an email, you need to check it now. And again, just like the one-on-ones help you grow, and also communicate, like what problems or issues you might be having. If we don't know what's going on in your life and you're having trouble, we're not going to be able to help you. And so it's important to discuss with your CD, and you don't have to share everything. I'm not saying, I need to know everything about your life, but if there's something that is affecting your ability to do your job, letting us know some of that information can be beneficial in helping us help you, write things and get things set straight.
Yay, question time. Cool. So y'all don't necessarily need to get on screen and answer to Daniel or I, but you can just answer these questions to your CD and kind of go over a few things for a few minutes. So what are some of the ways that an RA's unsatisfactory job performance may be addressed? And then true or false, an RA must take the RA course during their first semester of employment. And then the last one is from the RA job description slide, RAs are intelligent, creative, and what are some other things? So this is one of those interactive slides. So just go ahead and talk with your other peers and your CD, ACD, whoever is with you in the room. And then we'll just kind of come back in like 2-3 minutes. Go.
Okay, so I hope some good conversation was started. And this is something you can continue with your, later on when you're discussing this with, amongst your peers, in the session after this. But let's continue. So our next section is we're discussing responsibilities to resident. So these next few slides are going to be about your responsibilities to residents, to your peers, to your CDs. Again, this is kind of that same information. You'll see that some of this is things that we'll have touched upon earlier, but again, that's natural because everything about this job in this presentation is very cohesive and very intermixed. So one of your responsibilities to residents is demonstrating a caring and supportive attitude. And so in endeavoring to be understanding of others whose lifestyles and behaviors vary from your own. Imagine your own lifestyle behaviors and you know how you'd like to be treated. Think about the residents and how they may wish to be treated, and try to get your residents involved. Now more than ever with social distancing, it's going to be hard for residents to engage themselves within housing and UNT. And so we need to help them be aware that they are part of this housing and UNT community and family. We also want you to know, so we're endeavoring to involve residents in programs developed by Housing and Res Life. So as I said, it's it's harder to do that now, but we gotta, so we have to guide our residents in doing that. We also want you to know as many residents as possible. This can help when they need to reach out to you. If they've never met you in some form or fashion, then they're not going to feel comfortable, talking to you. That's not to say that you're going to know every single resident equally, but it doesn't hurt to know more than not as much with your residents. We also working with residents to prevent and mediate conflicts arise. When the conflicts arise. Falling back on knowing your residents can help with this. If they have a relationship with you, they will trust you and they'll go along with your decisions and when you're there to help them. Also completing program as part of the residential curriculum model. That's something we'll be going over later in training about what the exact curriculum model is. That's just part of what we want you to do. We also want to make sure that you're actively participating in one of the hall assigned committees. So if they have intramurals, if intramurals still go on, more than likely your hall will have an intramurals committee that some of you will be participating in. It just helps, further, help you as a staff develop and grow.
Okay, so expectations of CDs and peers. So being supportive of and cooperative with all residents hall staff. So that includes your ACD, your CD, each other, your desk clerks, whether it's the full-time person, a nighttime person, or the part-timers. and even your hall association and custodial staff, especially the custodial staff. Kudos to them for doing an amazing job this whole entire summer and ever since March, especially with COVID. But just making sure that you're treating everyone with support and respect and everything like that. Hall association is probably in new terms for you guys, but it'll definitely be something that you're going to be learning about throughout the RLT experience. It's not necessarily something that you are really hands-on in, but it is something that you need to be aware of. The next is just making sure that you're returning to campus early, so you're already here now. And then for the spring semester, it'll be early in January, kind of similar to training now. You'll be coming back a little bit earlier than when classes actually start to have a smaller version of this as a refresher for the spring semester as well. And then other assigned staff development and training sessions during the semester. So you're going to hear something that is called all staff, and that is essentially a meeting that will be hosted by Sarah. And it is going to be essentially just a lot of information that everyone needs to know. And those are, we already have those dates, so we'll make sure to give those to you as well. And then spending no fewer than 15 hours a week within the hall working on assigned tasks. So just making sure that you're present, you are seen, and you are doing what you got to do. All right. So some more of the expectations would be supporting endeavors from the central administration, the department staff, RLAC, and RHA, and then serving in an on-call and desk coverage rotation during the week and weekends as required. Definitely, again, on-call is not something that you're going to be doing today, because today is just day one. So as we go throughout RLT, your own CD, ACD team will have the time to schedule whenever you're going to have your on-calls and desk coverage and things of that nature. Informing the community director before leaving town on weekends and returning to the hall. So this one is actually very important, because we as a ACD community director team need to know who all is in the building whenever something happens. So for example, let's say the fire alarm's going off. We're trying to figure out who all is in the building, who all can help, who all needs to do things. And if someone's not here, we need an RA to take their floor as well to start checking residents. And that'll be something, again, for the fire drill and tornado stuff, that is also going to be different this semester, as Tomas mentioned earlier this morning. But that was just like a brief example. Like, we need to know who's in the building and when and all of that stuff. And then lastly, just participation at least twice a semester in performance reviews with the community director. So last year, that was held in the middle of the semester, and then again at the end of the semester or at the end of the year. I think there were quite a few performance reviews just to make sure everyone understood like their job and all of that fun stuff. So I know that this is quite a lot of information. So does anyone have any questions? If not, we'll just keep on chugging.
See anyone? I don't see any chats. Okay. Well,
all right, cool. Well, let's keep on going.
Keep on going. So building safety and security expectations. So I was going to go into a little bit more detail about this, but I think it'll be better if this is something that's talked about in your hall, since you know your CD and ACD will know where these things are. So y'all should have gotten one of these. Yeah, I'm gonna try and, I mean, I know it's backwards, looking at the camera now, but it's the job safety training checklist. So just looking at it, know where we have, you know, first aid kits and spill kits and when we're supposed to use those. Emergency plan, evacuation routes, you know, there's using of tools, that just includes vacuums, wet vacs, proper lifting techniques. I mean, I don't think you'll usually use ladders, but I mean, again, in that, you know, other tasks as assigned, you might end up using, you know, that sort of thing. Especially slips and falls. On the rare occasions that we do get, you know, ice storms, that sort of thing, we want to make sure that, you know, y'all know where the ice melt is, you know, how to properly distribute it, and that sort of thing. And so, you know, the safety and security of the residents during emergency situations, and what we do during those times. We also want to make sure that you are, completing opening and fall and spring close down procedures, which those can be anything from, like taking out trash to just making sure that, there's no old posters and things of that nature. When our residents, we're offering aid in any conflict or emergency situation as needed, and that sort of thing. If there's a resident that has an issue, within reason, we help them out. If they need medical transportation, that's not something that's expected out of y'all. But in whatever way we can offer help, we do. Also, just make sure that you're checking residents' rooms for correct checkout procedures and damages. Now, I know that earlier Tomas brought up that we're not doing the normal monthly safety checks anymore, at least until Thanksgiving. But when we do check rooms, make sure that you're checking for stuff, and especially when they leave, make sure that like if that there was not a hole punched in a wall when you show up into a room and you do your checks before residents arrive, and then that hole appears when there's residents there, well, obviously they did something. And so we want to just make sure that you're keeping our buildings safe for our residents, but also making sure that our buildings themselves are safe. And then again, kind of the job safety checklist, which I just kind of briefly went over. You have a copy for you to sign and date that you can go over with your CD and ACD and staff, and just make sure that y'all know where this stuff is in your hall, where your rooms are, where your mechanical rooms are, where your breaker rooms are, all that stuff as well. And so we have our second set of review questions, and so just thinking about these things, just make sure you're remembering, if you're leaving the building, who do you need to notify? That's the CD. True or false, you are expected to spend no fewer than 15 hours a week with the hall working on assigned tasks. That's true. And some of the responsibilities to residents, you involve them in programs. You complete the programs as part of the curriculum module, knowing as many residents as you possibly can, and just make sure you're showing a supportive and caring attitude towards your residents.
Alrighty. So I'm not necessarily going to read this slide verbatim because that's a lot of words. So, but if you want to look over the Residence Life Advisor Code of Ethics, this is also something that has been printed out and put into your workbook. I think that'll be the copy that obviously you keep, but this will also be printed out for you from your CD ACD team, and you'll turn it back into them as well. But yeah, this is definitely important material for you to go over, and it's encouraged obviously to keep this with you so that you understand the ethics of your responsibilities and your position for sure. And if anyone has any questions about that, just let us know.
Looks like RamFam posted a question.
Yeah. Here. So before Daniel answers it, because Daniel is the CD for Rollins, the Rollins question was, how exactly are the 15 hours calculated for RAs? So Daniel, go ahead and take it away.
That is a good question. And so it's when you're doing your posters, it's when you're doing your programs, it's when you're attending these staff meetings, it's when you're attending these one-on-ones. Everything you're doing is set to that 15 hours. That's why you have, that's how we can establish that you have, your position, why you don't have to pay for, living and housing, why you don't have to pay for your meals. That's what it is for. So I hope I answered that question. So again, with the Code of Ethics, your job and your education. again, maintaining those GPA requirements. Not only is that an expectation for you as an RA, but I mean, it's in the RLA Code of Ethics. So this is, everybody has to maintain their certain GPA requirements. Your RLA job is priority second only to your education. You'll maintain minimum GPA requirements, and failure to do so can lead to your probation or loss of employment. Again, as we have established with COVID, we're not asking for the minimum GPA requirement at this time to keep your position. However, it is something that will be coming back, and so it's good to have that in practice at the very least. So still don't, just because you don't have to, don't try to not do it. And if you're not taking, and another thing to consider is, if you're not taking your GPA and your seriously, and your studies seriously, are your residents. When changes to class schedule, adding and dropping, during the semester, you'll have to notify your direct supervisor. That way can we be aware of your progress and can be aware of any potential struggles you're having, as well as just making sure that you're maintaining that, under 12 over 16, situation. You'll also abide by university policies regarding academic integrity and honesty. In other words, no cheating. I think that's pretty straightforward.
Alrighty. So just role model and interactions is essentially what this slide is. And so you're an example for your residents. You set the tone for your wing, your hall, your everything. So just think about why you wanted to be an RA, and what was there an RA that you aspired to be like, or maybe even wanted to not be like, and wanted to give residents another experience. So just keep those things in mind and just be you. Like, that's why we hired you guys. Like, y'all were amazing in your interviews. Y'all did amazing. Like, y'all are awesome. So just be the example that you wanted whenever you were this age. You were a first-time in college student. You have no idea what is about to happen. I mean, we're also under the circumstances of COVID, so even we don't really know what's going to happen. So just be the role model that you want to be. Like, just be a really good role model. Be visible. This one is so important. But it's also going to be tricky because of COVID, and so many people are allowed in the lobby at a specific time, and you're only going to have so many office hours, or not necessarily office hours, but you're 15 hours a week and things of that nature. So just keep in mind the ways that you want to get involved with your residents that can go towards that 15 hours. So an example of this would be an office hour, or you can go to the lobby of like your common room area and just kind of hang out and chill. But those were also examples before COVID. So now what you can do potentially is be like, hey, I'm going to be on Teams or Zoom for 2 hours. And if y'all have any questions, want to give me some ideas for some programming and what y'all want to do, and just kind of chit chat, like, log into this Zoom, log on to this Teams meeting and things like that. So you can still do your office hours, even though you don't have to do it in person. So just being visible and everything like that. We understand that y'all have lives, and that this may not be the only thing that you have going on. You may have another job. You may be involved in campus and organizations and things like that. So just make sure that you're studying for your classes and you're doing all the things that you need to do. Get plenty of sleep. Being burnt out is not okay. It's very hard to do this position when you are burnt out. And if you need anything or need help, just talk to your ACD team, and always remember that whenever you are on call, to call up. And again, we'll cover more of that during the week. And then confidentiality is key. So this goes also back to the example that Daniel was giving about gossiping. This is another thing. You don't want to be spreading false information, and you don't need to be talking about things that you shouldn't. So just confidentiality is key.
So say no to drugs. So I think that kind of shows you what's going to be what our next few slides are going to be about. Before I go on, is there any questions? Any other questions? Anything else? I don't think there was anything in the chat. Nope. Okay. Um, so yes, UNT are so drugs and alcohol. Just as a staff member, as a role model, you're expected not to sell, trade, transfer, purchase, promote, or possess in any manner illegal drugs or possess legal drugs without a prescription. You also will not abuse any of your prescription-based medications. I think that's pretty clear, straight, cut, clear cut, and to the point.
Okay, so we're going to continue on with drugs and alcohol. So RAs that are 21 or older may drink alcohol. However, this is so important. Your personal well-being and safety is very important. So if you're going to consume responsibly and while you are not working. If you are ever drinking or doing anything that you shouldn't during an on-call, that is a big no-no. So don't do that. Also keep in mind you live exactly where you work. So if you're going out, you're doing your thing, let's pretend that bars are open because with COVID, most of them are not. You're coming in and you're feeling it, you're having a good old time, and then you see some of your residents in the lobby, and that's not necessarily, again, like you are a role model. So you do not want to be doing things like that because, again, you live where you work. So it's very important to drink responsibly if you're going to, and all of that kind of stuff. And definitely do not consume alcohol around your residents. No, they are minors, because if they are coming in as a first-time college student, which they are, that means that they're just graduating from high school, depending upon the type of student, because all students are different. But for this example, they're just now graduating high school. So they're easily 17 or 18 years old. So you should not be drinking around them whatsoever. These are very serious topics. And if you have questions because you are 21 or older, those are questions you should probably ask or get clarification from your CD/ACD team, because they're going to be the ones that if something happens, like they're going to have a conversation with you like nearly immediately. So just keep that in mind. This is also a very serious topic, so don't get like too scared or anything like that. It's all good. This is just something that we have to cover in the presentation. Okay, so this is another fun one, consensual relationships. So I'm actually going to read this one because this one is a little So understand the UNT housing consensual relationship policy as outlined in RLA policy and abide by it. In keeping within the institution's sexual harassment policy, understand that you cannot date residents. Any residents in your building, in your hall, you cannot date residents for whom you are directly responsible or staff members in the hall area in which you are employed. So you are not allowed to date anyone in your hall because that is members in the hall or area. So with that being said, try to avoid dating residents. Don't do it because you are an employee. It is very not a good thing. So the residents are in some way your responsibility. So there's a power thing there. That's not okay. Let's see. Okay, yeah, you're an authority figure. So things can get a little gray when it comes to relationships or romantic nature with residents. So just do not do it. And if you have questions about that, direct it to your CD/ACD team, because the last little bit of the slides that we've just covered is very, very serious things. So this is why, again, we covered the written, the verbal, the probation and termination stuff before. This is the stuff that will get you in trouble. So just keep that in mind. Don't do it. Date people that you don't have in your hall. And that's essentially our presentation. So yay! Daniel, you're muted if you're talking.
Are there any
I wasn't
questions
entirely
for
sure.
anyone else, or should I end the?
That was it. I was just going to say one more final. Don't do it, and I messed up on that. But yes, so that was our presentation. Are there any other questions? If you want, we're still here for a few more minutes. Otherwise, you can also talk to your CD and your ACD when you meet in your group. at is it 3, Jessa? Is it 3? Oh, you don't. What's
The next start, I have in hall time starting at 3 p.m. where you're going over job responsibilities and expectations in your halls. So
Perfect.
whatever that is for y'all. I'm
Yeah.
ending the recording now.
Yeah.
All right, awesome.